Hey everybody, we are Acrovan Adventures, and today we are going to be talking about some of the safety considerations for our back deck.
Number 1. Visibility.
We wanted to make sure it was very clear that we had an extended back bumper as we were driving, and it was very important to us to put back lights on this deck. So now the furthest part out on our bus also has brake lights, reverse lights, turn signals, and even running lights at night when we're driving. We got some DOT approved back lights. They meet a certain size and brightness requirement. They also came with some reflective strips, so we put them on the sides and the back of the bumper. Makes it very clear to see at night, and that way there's no question as another car sees your back bumper that something is sticking out past the back of your car. You definitely have to check your own state's requirements, but there might actually be a legal requirement to put lights on the furthest back part of your car. So check that, make sure you're doing things by the law. While we're talking about other legal regulations, we also chose to move our license plate to the furthest back point of the car, and we added a light so that you could see it at night. We did this because it would have been blocked by the motorcycle if it was still in the original spot, and we wanted to make sure it was clearly visible as we were driving. If you want to learn how we installed these back lights, check out our video up here. For us, it was extra important to put additional brake lights on because our motorcycle is going to be covering up this set of brake lights and our turn signal. So if we didn't have these, the motorcycle would be blocking it and nobody would even know when we were stopping ever. So for us, it was absolutely essential that we add more brake lights, but even if you're not putting a motorcycle on, we do recommend that you have some more if your back deck sticks out a little bit.
Number 2. The bumper.
When we first took off the back bumper for this, we were really shocked at how much it weighed. It probably weighs about 150 pounds. It's extremely heavy, very solid metal. Because this platform sticks out so far, we didn't want all that weight so far back off the wheels, and we thought about using a wooden bumper just to replace this metal one because it would save us a lot of weight. In the end, we decided that it was extremely important to put the factory metal bumper back on for safety reasons and for legal reasons. When a vehicle is designed by the manufacturer, the bumpers have to meet a certain crash test regulation. We figured we didn't want to mess with that by putting a wooden one on, and if somebody were to rear end us, they would still be hitting the factory back bumper, which does meet whatever safety regulations they had to adhere to. So even though it added a little bit of weight, we're very happy that we ended up going with this metal bumper. Again, certain states have different legal requirements for your front and back bumpers. You may want to check to see if you are even allowed to change the bumper at all. We figured that since the factory bumper was A-OK when it was first registered, it should be okay even though it's back off the bus a little bit in distance. Also, with regard to the weight, even though this weighs so much, this bus is built to haul a lot of weight. So we honestly don't really see any difference by putting this metal bumper back on in the performance or the height that the back end is at. So honestly, I think the bus has no problem handling this weight. You shouldn't worry about it yourself.
Number 3. Ground clearance.
A question that we get asked all the time is, will your back bumper hit the ground if you go up a steep hill or over a bump? The short answer is probably not. Yes, there is quite a bit of distance between our rear axle and the furthest back point on our bus. It's probably about 11 feet. However, we've seen some factory RVs with about the same amount of distance, some other big box trucks with a similar distance, and the fact of the matter is that this bumper is still extremely high off the ground. We've heard a lot of off-roady people ask us about the departure angle, which basically is the distance from your back axle to the back of your car and what angle hill could you go up without hitting the ground. This bumper is almost 27 inches off the ground when it's level. You can see it's like above my knee. It's extremely high. We would have to be going up a very steep hill in order to hit this back bumper. And since this is a 20-year-old bus, we don't really plan to do any off-roading, and we don't think that's ever going to be an issue. For example, in this exact storage unit right next to us is a camper trailer where the distance between the furthest back point and the back axle is at least the same length as our bus, if not even further. If we do ever find ourselves off-roading and we're going to hit the back bumper, we'll let you know, but we don't think it's going to be any problem for us.
Number 4. Are the bolts actually strong enough?
This is also a very common question that we get. We are going to have a full motorcycle on the back here. The motorcycle weighs about 400 pounds and the back deck does stick out 4 feet. So that amount of weight sticking off that far from the axle is quite a bit of weight on the back of our bus. And we get asked all the time, are the bolts holding this up really strong enough to hold that much weight as you're driving and bouncing around? The answer is absolutely yes. We have a total of 10 half-inch grade 8 bolts that hold this up on each side. Each one of those bolts can hold thousands of pounds of force, and we don't really think that 400 pounds going over a bump is ever going to exceed that times 10. These half-inch bolts are what you'll find in construction all the time, holding up bridges, things like that. Really not going to be an issue with one motorcycle bouncing up and down on the highway. So again, we'll definitely let you know if we're wrong, but I don't think this is going to be popping off anytime soon while we're driving. Different types of bolts are rated by different grades. There's grade 6, there's grade 8 bolts, and grade 8 bolts are extremely strong. They're like the highest up on the spectrum of strength, which is why we chose to use them. We probably could have just gotten away with galvanized metal or even stainless steel. Any of those are probably strong enough, but we opted for supposedly the strongest selection that you can get at a normal hardware store. If you want to see how we built this back deck without welding, using only bolts, you can check out our other video up here.
Number 5, turning.
Because there's such a big distance between our back axle and the back of the bus, as you take a sharp turn, the rear end will actually swing out the other direction. So if we were driving in a very tight spot and we took an extremely sharp turn, our back end might actually stick into another lane and potentially hit another vehicle or a tree or a telephone pole or anything like that. In the United States, that is not uncommon. That's why you see tractor trailers all the time that say wide turns. Yes, we certainly do have to consider this while we're driving. We have to be cautious. I do look a couple extra times to make sure there's no cars around me, and we generally try to take shallow turns. That just comes with the territory when you drive a large vehicle like an RV or a bus.
Number 6, strapping down the motorcycle.
If you're following us on Instagram, you may have seen a reel that we posted where we drove the motorcycle up onto here and it kind of looked a little bit wobbly. If you're not following us on Instagram, you should check us out at Acrovan Adventures. That's where we post a lot of our frequent daily updates, what we're doing, where we're at, so definitely check us out there. But in that video, the motorcycle rack looked very insecure. We actually filmed that before we ever finished the deck, and now we're happy to say that the wheel chock is now secured in place. If I shake this, it is not going anywhere. I can yank it back and forth, and the whole bus will move. On top of that, we specifically incorporated 4 anchor points into the design of the deck. We have 4 half-inch galvanized eye bolts that go directly through the metal of the rear deck frame and directly attached to the bus itself in this whole configuration. So when the motorcycle's up here, we are going to have 4 secure straps through those eye bolts, which do go through the metal of our back deck frame, and therefore can't really go anywhere while we're driving. The wheel chock is very secure on its own, so when we're loading it and unloading it, we may just put the bike in there and then let it go. If we're driving, however, we certainly are going to strap it down much more securely and make sure everything is fast and tight before we hit the road. Again, this is very in line with how we would load this into the back of a pickup truck or on a trailer. It's exactly the same thing, we're just elevated a little bit more.
Number 7, backing up and parking.
We installed a wireless backup camera in the top of the bus. This is not essential, but we certainly recommend it. It makes it a lot easier to see what's behind you while you're driving or while you're parking, while you're backing up. It's extremely clear, it's really easy to see, and it certainly does help save some arguments between Jessie and I when I can back up nice and smoothly and I don't have to hit anything along the way. Just kidding. In all seriousness, the backup camera is not essential, but it is really, really a great feature. I would certainly recommend investing in one, but totally up to you. If you want to see the backup camera we're using, how we installed it, and what we think about it, you can check out our video again up here in the corner.
And number 8, how much weight can the back deck hold?
I don't have a very good answer for you, but I can say that our motorcycle weighs 400 pounds. I can stand on it, and Jessie can stand on it. We could jump around all day, and I don't think the deck is going anywhere anytime soon. We're using 6-inch tall by 2 inches wide by 1/4-inch thick steel as our main supports. We're using 1/2-inch grade 8 bolts as the secure point to the frame, and this kind of metal is certainly used in construction all the time. I would be comfortable putting a 1,000-pound motorcycle on here and driving away with it. I don't think it's going to go anywhere. I think the first thing that might break would be the wood, in which case I would probably just use 2x6s or thicker wood instead of this, or maybe you even put a metal floor on, but I don't think the actual frame of this itself is going to break anytime soon. If you're really, really worried about it, you also could add supports on the outside that directly attach to the bottom of the bus body. We did not elect to do that because there is a little bit of wiggle room between the body of a vehicle and the frame, so we didn't want that kind of wiggling around, but you could also consider that if you want to. Long story short, I don't have a direct answer for you, but it can certainly hold at least 500 or 600 pounds, and that's well within its limits. When in doubt, I just like to compare this to something else that you could buy right out of the factory. I've seen some motorcycle racks that stick into a 2-inch trailer hitch receiver outlet. Supposedly they're rated to 600 or 700 pounds, and I can visibly see them wiggling and moving and bending as a car drives. If that thing is rated for 700 pounds, and this thing definitely can hold more than that. But I'm not the professional, so you have to do your own research. So to close this out, we did try and use our best judgment to make this as safe as we possibly could for our needs. We recommend that you do the same and just, again, use your best judgment. Make sure you keep safety in mind as you're designing customizations for your build. We are Acrovan Adventures, and if you want to see how we built any of the rest of our bus, be sure to check out our build series on our channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.